Hello, ladies and gentlemen, NBZ here, bringing you today something that I usually don't do. I have a new segment for you, very impromptu, I guess, but there has been some recent leaked news which involves Black and White 2, and I thought that it would be very interesting to talk about it, speculate about it, and generally do that kind of thing. If you do remember in the past, I did a video when the original Black and White 2 announcement came along, and people seemed to enjoy that speculation, gave me lots of feedback about what they thought was going to happen, and I thought I might just do the same thing here. I'm not just going to give you the announcement in a 20-second video and then run away. I would like to give you my speculation, my spin on the matter, and all the information that we currently have. That's how I do things over here, and that's how things go down. But if you are not aware already from looking at the screen, there is some pretty major news hitting the headlines today. If you look to the left column of this picture, or just the left hand side in general, you will see three figures that seem at first glance very familiar, but at a second glance relatively different to what you may remember of that familiarity. So we have, of course, different forms here of the three genies, the three legendary Pokemon in the original Black and White games, that is Tornadus, Landorus, and Thundurus. As you can see, they look pretty different. Most astonishingly so is Tornadus, who seems to have sprouted wings and has decided to turn into a bird. Now, as is very obvious, these just distinctive changes to the look of the Pokemon could mean multiple things, and I'm going to, of course, go into detail on this matter, hopefully discuss what the potential could be of these new forms, and I guess from a competitive standpoint, what may change in light of these new forms if they are to change certain aspects of the Pokemon, such as typing or stats or anything along those lines. But for now, I'm going to go into another picture, and I will explain a little bit more about how to capture these Pokemon and what we speculate about their obtainment, I guess. So here we are with a screen that was released with the announcement of the Pokemon 3DS application known as the Pokemon AR Searcher. Now, what this application does essentially is it allows you to look around a normal room with the 3DS camera and catch Pokemon which are silhouettes, etc, etc. It's an application for the 3DS that will be released sometime soon, I believe before the end of this year, but don't quote me on that. I'm not quite sure when it will be released. However, the most interesting thing, of course, to us here is the silhouette that we see on the screen. Now, this silhouette does strike resemblance to the Tornadus that we saw in the CoroCoro scan. Of course, the wings there signify that, as well as the general body shape of the thing in general. People, I guess, kind of thought this may be some kind of Ho-Oh type thing. It kind of looks a bit like Ho-Oh when it was first released, but it is pretty clear now that the dimensions and the body shape are much more fitting to the Tornadus that we have in the scan than what a Ho-Oh would be. So it seems pretty pertinent to observe that this indeed is going to be the form Tornadus, which will be obtainable within the AR Searcher. Now, from what has currently been unconfirmed, it has been said that these three legends, the three forms at least, will only be obtainable within the AR Searcher, which is, I guess, not a great thing for people who do not own a 3DS, because, of course, the AR Searcher is a 3DS exclusive application. You can only download it on that system, and therefore if you have a regular DS or DSi or whatever, you won't be able to get these guys. It's basically been said that they're going to be exclusive to this app, so if you don't have a 3DS and you're not able to do it, you probably won't be able to get one legitimately. Of course, that's not really going to be a big deal to us competitive players, because we just get stuff when we want. I mean, we can go and use Genesect right now if we wanted to, but of course the metagame's not allowing for it because, you know, things and stuff and such, because we like to wait for legitimate releases, but, you know, it's easily obtainable for people like us. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be an exclusive way of obtaining the Pokemon. It would be pretty interesting for Nintendo, actually, in terms of sales with the 3DS. Of course, they're not going to be pushing hardware units of the 3DS when Black and White 2 comes out, simply because it is a DS release. However, by including this AR Searcher as a 3DS exclusive, then they are potentially able to push hardware sales if people are crazy enough to go out and buy it just for the single fact of getting these exclusive Pokemon. People are that crazy. I know they are. So I guess it works out a little bit for them. Maybe they're going to do more things like this in the future. Maybe that AR searcher will be exclusively for multiple other Pokemon forms. Who knows? At this rate, everything could have a new form. We have no idea. The reason being is my next point, which I will now move on to. Alright, so we know that Game Freak often has alternate forms for Pokemon, and the reason we know this, of course, is because it's happened in multiple games in the past. However, in these situations, what Game Freak generally do is they know beforehand that they're going to put these Pokemon into extra games. They're going to take these Pokemon, change their forms, and deliver them in the upcoming sequel, be that an actual sequel like Black and White 2, or the third game in the series like Platinum or Emerald or whatever. But we know that this has happened before. Obviously, there were placeholders in the games for Diamond and Pearl for the Pokemon Rotom, Giratina, and Shaymin, which of course turned out to be the Rotom forms, the Giratina Origin, and the Skymin forms in Pokemon Platinum when that was released. So Game Freak obviously put these placeholders in the game, knowing in the future that they were going to release these Pokemon onto a new game in a different form. And the placeholders there, I guess, just for compatibility issues between the games, which would have made things easier, but they knew beforehand that this was going to happen. Similarly, we can see with Black and White that Cheren was had a placeholder in the game, so we knew obviously that Cheren was going to have alternate forms, and we of course do. It's going to be the front covers of Black and White 2, the Cheren forms are there, and that is essentially what we're seeing. However, what is different about these three Pokemon is that none of them have placeholders, which means essentially that, you know, Game Freak may well have decided to implement these guys after Black and White was finished, the original Black and White. Obviously, they had plans to make the two Cheren forms during the production of Black and White. They already knew that Black and White 2 was going to be in the works. However, they probably didn't know that they were going to change the forms of the three genies, and therefore they do not have placeholders in the original Black and White coding. It was a decision probably made after Black and White was shipped, after the game was out, after everything was done, and so what we have now is a situation where essentially Game Freak can do what they like in terms of alternative forms. It seems a theme, essentially, because we have Kyurem and its two alternate Zekrom and Reshiram forms, and now we have these three forms as well. Is there a potential that every single Pokemon in the game could have an alternate form? Are we going to Digimon Pokemon? Who knows? We don't have a clue at this point. It's all speculation, but it would be weird, it would be interesting, it would also just expand things greatly and make things a hell of a lot more confusing, essentially introducing double the roster of the current 600 odd folks that we have around, which would be slightly cataclysmic to say the least. Something which I don't think is going to personally happen. I would be very surprised if they had forms for every single thing, but there is the potential, you know, it could happen, essentially. I'm not going to say it's going to happen because I think it's outright ridiculous, but it could. Possibilities are possibilities, and, you know, Game Freak can surprise the hell out of us at any moment. They generally did that when they announced Black and White 2 to begin with, so hey, anything is possible from this point onwards. Now, there is something else rather interesting about the forms, and this is a very interesting observation, I guess, brought up on Pokebeach.com, where there is an article on this, and the writer has theorized, I guess, that because the three genies in the original Black and White games are male, that these could potentially be female forms. They could be just gender differences. It would be, I guess, something similar to what goes on with Jellicent, where it's just simply an aesthetic change. It's nothing to do with the base stats, nothing to do with the typing, but just aesthetic differences, I guess. To be honest, I don't think this would be the case, but, you know, his argument was that the Thundurus and the Tornadus have these purple things on them, which kind of look like bras. Yup. I personally don't find that to have any traction. It's interesting as an observation, but I doubt that. I mean, it could be gender differences, sure, but when you say that they're just gender differences and that's all it is an aesthetic change, I don't see the point of having them exclusively to a 3DS game or 3DS application and make it so difficult to go out there, buy this extra thing just to get a different gender of the form. I don't know. It's a bit weird, to be honest. I wouldn't say that that had much traction as a theory, but it is possible. You know, all these things are possible. It's just speculation. We're throwing shit at the wall at this point. Anything can happen. We have no idea. I'm just saying what I think, you know. Now, with all that said and done, I believe we can move on a little bit to speculation about what might happen with forms and typing and all that good stuff. Personally, I think that it will most likely be similar to what has happened with the Cheren forms, where their typing doesn't change, but they have access to special moves. So, obviously, Cheren White and Black respectively have access to those two moves like Freeze, Shock, and Burn, Freeze. I don't even remember the names of them, but they're ice moves which have the effects of paralyzing and burning respectively, I believe, something along those lines. But those are just special moves specifically made for them. Now, I don't believe that there are any moves within the Black and White game that are similar to those two moves that cannot be obtained and are sort of specific to the genies. So I wouldn't say that that was a real possibility, though, you know, the introduction of different moves is definitely something that could happen. I don't think that they would do it simply because it would cause a lot of compatibility issues between the original Black and White games and the second ones, because obviously it's not in the original, so how could you use them on Wi-Fi to begin with? So that would be a little bit of an issue, but I'm thinking maybe there might be a switch up in terms of the stat distribution. That would definitely be interesting. I believe we currently don't know anything about the stat distribution of Reshiram and Zekrom Kyurem. I don't think that's been released. That information has been released at this point, so everything is still possible in that area. It would be very interesting to see whether these guys kind of take a U-turn, as it were, and become more defensive variants of the three genies, because as it stands, they are all very offensively based. You know, the prime candidates obviously for speed, the prime candidates for both attack and special attack, they really hit really hard. The pack punches. Thundurus has obviously been banned because it's just freaking too powerful. Landorus, you know, running sets with earthquakes and sand force and everything, and Tornadus with its Specs Hurricane raining down on everything. They're all very offensively based, so perhaps a more defensively based trio would be interesting. I don't think it would lend very well to the typing. Generally, flying types don't do the best defensively. There are a few exceptions to that rule, but it doesn't really work out as a defensive typing, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Apart from, you know, when you go like Lugia and shit, yeah, but that's fucking Lugia. You know, Lugia is the Great Wall of China. You can't kill that thing. It's heavy and bulky as hell, but, you know, that could be interesting, I guess. But as of yet, I have not really thought too much into it. I'm just speculating as I speak, I guess. We honestly haven't had a lot of news about this. Of course, this just got released today, so it's very fresh, very new, and I guess that it bodes well for Black and White 2, because it is announcing lots of new interesting features, lots of new interesting things like these forms, which could potentially shake the game up and make it a lot more interesting than your stereotypical Emerald or your stereotypical Platinum, just adding a lot more spice to the game, I guess, in general. So I'm glad that I was able to do this. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do have comments, speculation, insults for me or something in the comments, then feel free to leave them below. I'll definitely go and dive in there and divulge your thoughts, as well as you know, respond and stuff. So do be sure to do that. You can leave a like as well if you want to spread the message about these forms and such, so that it can reach more people and more people will know the news. It's spreading the gospel. That's what news is all about. Spread the news like a paperboy of the internet. I'm the paperboy of the internet. Hells yeah. So there you go. I'm gonna do that. I'll probably get a battle uploaded today or something along those lines. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.